This is Behind the Headlines, with behind-the-scenes analysis on issues affecting Pennsylvanians, sponsored by the Susquehanna Valley Center for Public Policy. Now, here's your host.
Hi, welcome to a new edition of Behind the Headlines. I'm Maura Donnelly, and I'm filling in today for Charlie Greenwald, who's on assignment. He's a very busy man. I'm very fortunate to have with me today my co-host, Ann Womble. Welcome, Ann.
Thank you, Maura.
Ann is a member of the Board of Directors of the Susquehanna Valley Center for Public Policy. She's also a trustee at Millersville University, and she's the executive director of the Lancaster Dollars for Higher Learning. Mm-hmm. Did I get everything?
That's right. That's
well, it's very nice to have you here today, and especially with your background. For our guests, we have back with us today one of our favorite guests, Ken Mash, who's the president of APSCUF. Welcome, Ken.
Hi, Maura. It's great to be here, and it's good to be here with you.
And he brought with us, with him, a very special guest, Olivia Straka, who is a senior at Shippensburg University.
Yes, hi.
And we're going to have an opportunity to talk to you a little bit too, so welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to have you both here today. We've got some big funding issues to talk about for higher education. So, Ann, I know you have the first question here today, so.
Sure, I'm happy to start. Ken, as our audience probably knows, over the years, state funding for our state system schools has been cut, now down to about 25% of state funding. Can you explain how this affects faculty and the campuses and their ability to manage?
So when the state system of higher ed with our 14 universities, when it was originally created as the state system, the state picked up about 75%, as you were saying, of the cost of a student's education. Now with cuts that have taken place in recent years, it's down below 25% at most of the schools. What happened was in 2011, amid the Great Recession, there was a reduction in 18% of the state allocation. Every year since then, we've been totally flat funded. So we have not seen any increases. In fact, I think we're only one of 3 states in the country at this point that has not restored some money to higher education since the Great Recession. This year, we were very fortunate, we think, both the governor and the legislature were in kind of an agreement that we should get an increase. It was not the kind of increase that the governor was originally saying. He was saying that in the next 2 years he wanted to totally restore those cuts. But they did reach a compromise in which they said they were going to give us a 5% increase, which would have made up about $20 million of the $90 million that were cut. So we thought we were going to be going ahead, but unfortunately it all got caught up in the entire budget mass that's been taking place in the Commonwealth. And when the governor wound up line item vetoing and blue lining the budget, he took down our budget back down to flat funding, I think with anticipating that they would return again at some point and give us the increases. So how at the universities what this has meant is, and I think the most important thing is that you could plot that as the state allocation decreases, tuition has increased. So I mean, it's almost a direct inverse relationship between state allocation and tuition. So that's put a really big burden on our students, on their families to be able to afford to go. Student fees have been increasing even beyond the rate of tuition too. And even with all those increases, there still isn't enough money for the universities to operate as they had been operating before. And the system and our universities have been very responsive. We've lost, hundreds of people working at the universities. We have lost 90 programs across the state that had been there before. Students are having a harder time getting into their classes. Faculty have had to, pick up workload. But I want to leave a chance for Olivia to talk about some of that.
We do want to talk specifically about the impact that it has on the students, but I want to ask Olivia a general question. How has your educational experience been at Shippensburg? You're a senior, you've been on student government, sounds like you've been very active. How has that been, and what exactly do you want to be when you grow up?
Right. Wow. That's a good question. I wish I knew.
And are you working in that direction?
So my experience at Shippensburg has been relatively amazing. I think it's one of one of the best state schools, if I can be a little biased. And I think the time on student government, as a student, if you get involved, you have a direct hand in some of the things that Ken is talking about. I have a personal relationship with many of the Board of Trustees members, and we are voting as students on the different fees and whether to raise them, and we are right in the trenches about conversations with tuition. We do have a say, as students, which is wonderful.
Yeah. And so what do you want to be when you grow
up? I don't know. Okay, something in politics, I suppose. Something to try to fix these issues.
You're off to a good start,
right?
Then.
I hope so, yes.
Okay, so specifically, how have you felt this crunch, this impact of the budget issues over the last several years?
Right. So the budget has changed a lot since I've just been a freshman in college and been able to see the change. I think that what a lot of people don't understand is that as our funding goes down, the students really do feel the impact. And I mean everything from our class sizes have exploded to professors, really feeling the strain. I know a lot of professors that have multiple jobs, even, tenured professors. And as that funding goes down, it's even hard to find money for food. There are a lot of students that are having issues with feeding themselves, and even transportation and getting home for breaks. Things like that have really been impacted.
Wow, that's pretty significant.
Yes.
How would you say that the higher health care costs and the pension obligations are also factoring into the university's ability to manage the budget on campus?
With the state system, we're kind of in a unique position. They do feel some of the pain of the pension costs, which everyone has felt throughout government. But our faculty, at the very least, the majority of our faculty are actually in they're not in the state retirement system. There are alternative retirement programs, which are sort of like 401ks, and so employees at the universities get to pick which one they're going to be in. So that the effect is there, but it might be muted a little bit at the universities.
What do you expect in the upcoming negotiations?
Well, we've been in negotiations. Our contract actually expired June 30th. I think, I think we're both trying to be patient and see where we land, about how much money there is there, and to come up and work cooperatively to get a contract that's fair to the faculty and serves our students the best it possibly can.
So those contracts are directly impacted by the lack of a current budget?
Well, it would have to be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very clear. I mean, when I talk to a lot of people, and they'll say things like, well, the university's got to cut the fat out of the system. Well, we've been at this now for 5 years after a pretty dramatic cut, and there's not real fat there to be cut, and it doesn't matter whether you're a liberal or you're a conservative. When you look at those budgets, they're tight, right? Anything that gets cut now is a matter of cutting into bone. So if we're cutting, it means that we're going to be increasing class sizes beyond where anybody agrees that they should be. We're going to be starting to eliminate core programs, which one would expect that would be there at a university. I mean, I've been here before, and we've talked about, how difficult it is to get a foreign language at a university now because there have been these cuts that have taken place. And it's not just foreign languages, it's in the humanities, it's in other programs as well. So any cuts right now really would be stark. And would ultimately wind up hurting our students.
Well, we're already bumping up into the next budget without having resolved last year's budget.
Right.
I mean, this is not news to anybody who's watching. It's been kind of a mess. Do you find yourselves playing a dual role of trying to restore what you wanted for last year and also, advocating for some sort of increase in the next year budget? It's got to be a lot of work right now.
So I don't know that there's even a transition point anymore.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
We're sort of moving.
Rolling into one at this point.
It is all really rolling into one. So we continue to speak up for our universities. And for our students at our universities, and say that yes, even for this past year, we do need the increase, and yes, we need to work towards getting even more next year. We really need to get the bump up to around that restoration number. Even the Board of Governors, which has been very reluctant to press the Commonwealth for more funds, has said, look, we had a $90 million cut. We need more than the $90 million at this point. We need probably I think they asked for about $110 million. So they've been extremely reluctant to say, we need much, much more. And they've been working with these budget gaps year after year after year, but they're even saying, look, we need to get more money for our students, and we're on board with that. And we're going to take action and work with whoever we can to make sure that happens.
So we have a budget on February 9th, and we have some sort of rally occurring on February 8th. Olivia, do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So, actually, Ken, I'm not really sure.
Which is fine.
No. Olivia, has been a student. I know last year we were in contact. She actually approached us because she wanted to know, as a student, what could the students do. And so we had thought about that and worked off of it, and we're planning to have a rally on February 8th. It's called United We Stand, Underfunded We Fail. Yeah. And we're looking to bring students in. We're going to have cooperation from the state system, too, and administrators and alumni and everybody who wants to show up. And that is the day before the governor's budget address. Yeah. So we just want to bring attention to our students and to our universities.
And where's it going to be held?
It's going to be in the Capitol Rotunda.
Okay.
And I think there's going to be a link on the screen even that's going to show where you can go to if you're interested.
So people can get some additional information. Well, as we finish out our segment, we never have enough time here, but Olivia, do you want to tell us a little bit about how you think students can become more involved in these issues that are facing the universities?
Sure. So I know for a lot of students, coming to Harrisburg and being able to attend a rally is difficult, just to get here with transportation. But talking to your administration, I think a lot of students, they view the president of the university as, unreachable. And we go to a state school because it's a community and because you can talk to your administration and your board of trustees, and they are available for communication. And I think that understanding that they are there for you as a student is really important. So just having the courage to talk to the administration, talk to your fellow students, and definitely your professors is a way to really mobilize and to get things done.
Oh, that's great advice. Well, we'd like to thank you both for being here today. We expect this to be an ongoing issue because we're still battling the budget. So hopefully someday this will be resolved, and we'll be able to talk about happy things like the foreign languages coming back to schools, which would be wonderful. So thank you very much for being here, and join us in just a few minutes for the next segment of Behind the Headlines.